Okay, here we are talking about the create script. So this is the second part of our 3 parts to this part 3. So in this one we've done this part, and it's like, so a lot of things I think at this point you should be pretty comfortable like working with a text file, and because this is going to be very similar to the one we just did. We are going to be working with only this set of code. We can keep the same assumptions that we had last time in that we know our buffered reader is going to start out pointing to this line. And so we'll have this exact thing. We'll have it pointed there. So we don't have to worry about like getting the buffered reader to that line. Like for our testing, it will just automatically put it to that line. And then we will, again, in part 3, we'll handle making sure these all get called in the right order so the buffered reader is in the right spot. And that's really part of the last exercise. For now, we can assume that our buffered reader is going to be pointed. It's going to have a file loaded. It's going to be pointing to this line of code. And your goal is to just look through the rest of the file and see and create scripts out of this. So we've worked a lot with scripts. These are all types of scripts. Let's see. In order to do this, what you're going to do is inside of the script class, you're going to make something. They're calling this like a factory method. It's basically, it's a static method, which in my classes we typically don't talk a ton about, but basically it's something that belongs. It's a method where you don't have to create an object to use it. We can just access the script class directly and use createScript, and we don't have to create an object in order to use the createScript. It's kind of like if you're using the math class, you don't need to make a math object. If you want to use like math absolute value or math power or math, any one of those things, you don't need to create a math object. You can just access the class directly. So that's a like short version of that. We don't need to worry too much about it. Basically, just know that this method that you're creating is designed to take in a string from the buffered reader. Maybe when you call the method, you're going to pass it just a string. You'll probably have to collect the string using the buffered reader, collect it from the file, and you're going to pass it into the createScript method. Its goal is to take that string in, unpack it, figure out what's going on in it, and then create a new script object and return that script object back to the user. There's a couple things in here. So let's see. A couple points I try to highlight in here is like if we have these two things, these are both script objects. And in this case, well, hopefully I broke it down for you right here. So whatever's in the first place is going to be the X, second place is Y, third place is going to be your action, and then everything else is going to be your argument. So sometimes there's only 4 items in here, like this has 1, 2, 3, 4. This whole thing is the 4th. And in this case, we have like more objects, but like these 4 things are all going to get packaged up into their own argument. So that's the only real tricky part I think about this. Well, one of the 2 tricky parts. One, you have to be able to package all this up into an argument. No matter whether it's one item or many items, you'll have to package those all up into one box. The other tricky thing is that based on the type of action, it's going to say this, I think it says it in here, there are like 3 things that you need to look out for. So if you check the action, you need to check the action, and if it's an item, or if this action is scenery, or if this action is a creature, you're not going to return a generic script object. You're going to have to return an actual, an item object, or a scenery object, or a creature object. And if you're not sure like how to do that, well, like here's the item class, and here's the item constructor. So to create a new item, you just pass in a script. New item is equal to new item, and then pass in whatever script you want, it'll return you an item. I think we'll find very similar things for the creature. There's not a lot of like crazy stuff you have to do to create a creature, an item, or even scenery. You just really pass the script object into there, create a new scenery, or scenery, creature, item, and whatever you get, you're going to return that back to the user. Okay, so I think those are the 2 biggest items. Again, realizing that this whole thing is an argument, whatever's in, and then what we just said about creating the different objects. That's it. Return that. Hopefully that's clear.